There are some really interesting articles in Slate and The Atlantic about an issue that never really occurred to me. They pose the question, should women get menstrual leave from work? Apparently, this is the norm in a lot of Asian countries. And on HuffPost Live, Rebecca Watson said about this, quote, just by asking the question, should women get paid menstruation leave, biases the listener into saying, oh, of course not, because you're talking about special treatment. But what about men? Should they get time off for a kick to the testicles that sends them into a tailspin of discomfort? Interesting point. So the argument in favor that I gathered from these articles goes like this. Periods are a biological, physiological, and psychological reality for women. So accepting that officially through policy is a step towards fairness in the workplace. It makes things better in the workplace. The argument against is more or less, and by the way, most of the publications are against. So I think Slate and The Atlantic, the writers in those two in those two places were against. They say, look, by giving women extra days off, you're furthering the notion that they're weaker and more emotional and hormonal, and is actually an anti-equality move because you're not treating women equal to men. And isn't that the end goal? Don't you want to be treated equally? So what makes sense here? I have to say I'm torn. Because here's the thing. I have like some kind of personal experience with this. Not because I have a vagina and get a period, but I had two ex-girlfriends that had these debilitating periods. And I didn't know this, but according to research, about 20% of women face that, where it's like fucking hell on earth the first day or two when they get their period. And when I look at stuff like that, I lean towards, come on, don't be stupid. They should definitely be home. You know, the idea that you have to drag your ass to work when you feel like the sky is falling on top of your head, it just seems cruel. But then on the other hand, we know for sure the way that corporations work in America. And if you make it so that women by law get many more days off than men, and this is on top of the idea of maternity leave, I mean, businesses are just going to discriminate against women even more than they do, and they already discriminate against them pretty strongly. So, again, I don't know what the answer is. I'm genuinely torn about this, but, I mean, I guess I worked out a little bit of a compromise. I thought about this quite a bit before I came on air today, and here's what I think makes sense. Step number one is we should just, right off the bat, if we want to set up a society that's not moronic, we should have a system that, you know, all people get plenty of paid sick days and at least 6 weeks paid vacation by law. And that's, believe it or not, that's a conservative number because what was it? William Howard Taft, a conservative Republican president in 1910, wrote in the New York Times that he thought every working person should get 3 months off paid by law. So for me to say 6 weeks paid vacation by law, that's conservative for even the old school Republican position, the old school conservative position. I know that the spectrum today in the U.S. has shifted so far to the right that when somebody says something like that, you're viewed as a commie. But it's not communist. It's fucking common sense that to realize that people are human beings. Okay, they're not just a fucking, part of a machine that they rent themselves out to their corporate overlords until they die, okay? It shouldn't be that all of your time is spent serving this abstract higher good of a corporation. No, you should be able to, enjoy your personal life and your private time and do stuff with your friends and your family and take trips and find your passion outside of what your work is. So that's step number one, is just to have a good system when it comes to vacation days and paid sick days. I've showed the chart so many times on the show before that people are probably tired of seeing it. But the United States is the only modern industrial nation that doesn't give you paid time off by law. All the others do. So we're way behind in this respect, and we really need to change the norm of the economy to get this in place. But other than that, I mean, it's an either or thing. So either we do that, which I think is a step number one, and we should definitely do it. I mean, or we could do 1 day a month. Okay, you win, ladies. 1 day a month if they want it for so-called period leave or menstruation leave. And the reason why I'm saying one, and I still think I'm kind of slightly being a douche by saying 1 day, is that some countries have two. Some countries give 2 days off for that, and 2 days off a month for that. And I think there were some countries that were even a little more conservative than what I said, which is they like 3 days total all year. So if it's a really, really bad period, then you could take time off. So I don't know. I think that's fair. 1 day off per month if you want it. And what they found is that in a lot of these countries where they offered it, the women didn't even take it. And look, I don't know what the answer is. I'm open to see arguments from every side on this topic, but I do think it's an interesting conversation to have. And I'm definitely not going to be part of that conservative mindset that just brushes it off from the beginning. Oh, how ridiculous, giving women time off when they're really, really in pain and they're really upset and they really hate shit that day. I mean, obviously you should just drag yourself into work and shut the fuck up, right?